Let's see. Where's my Gork and Mork so I can just there we go. Copy paste that to Tolma. And we seem to be live. Excellent. Welcome everyone to what is it? Session 40 or 39 of the Pathfinding Adventures, Tales of the Red Lions. We've been going for a while now. Over a year with this campaign here. And I'm looking forward to even more adventures, but for now, let's celebrate that small milestone by going straight into the recap of last week's session, starting with Laney.
Well, last time was very surprising. We found out a lot of things. We fought our way through to the Temple of Eternity so that Tasha could bind Baldagunda to her. And while she went and did that, the rest of us kind of just sat around a bit. We had a talk with the High Priest of the Temple of Eternity. And he told us that he'd known Ida's father, Thaddeus Broach. He'd actually been part of commissioning Ebert for her protection. He also told us that Thaddeus had not one, but two daughters. More on that from someone else. Rain seemed to come to terms with what had happened to Ivy. And the high priest told her that she was happy where she was and that she hoped to come back as a cute bunny rabbit, which Rain seemed to enjoy. From the Temple of Eternity, we were escorted to the Monsun Hotel by a pair of paladins from the temple. One of them was quite cute. Had a bit of an overbite, though. We all washed up there, and then we had a conversation with Tasha's aunt and uncle, the Katumas, by a remote bust because they were in hiding. I had a big surprise. It turned out that my mother knew Ida's father and that they disappeared together. I have a lot of questions about this. And then after that, we ended up seeing Captain Tanke from the Holocaust Elite Guard, who's also a professor of the university. They arranged for Baldagunda to be fitted with more suitable weapons. And we found out about the ivory dragon that protects the city. We need to make a plan to secure a space big enough to bring all the professors together to summon the ivory dragon to protect the city. And with that, I'll pass to Victor.
Yes, so there is much exposition. We also found out that everyone's being targeted by assassins, and in true fashion, it is our job to slay all of the assassins and also summon the dragon. Um, I'm going to let the people involved in the exposition talk about the exposition. Um, Victor was just present. Speaking of that, let's bump it over to Tasha.
Okay. Yeah, we had a very eventful last session. Lainey already said a lot. Tasha had the incredible honor of carrying her beloved Baldegonde herself to the lake within the Temple of Eternity, undergoing a beautiful and heart-wrenching ritual to bind their life forces together so Baldegonde might survive the poisoning she had suffered from those tentacly monsters. Everything went well in that case. The funny thing was that when both of them emerged from the lake, they had stars in the hair and eyes, and the high priest noted that this was quite unusual, asking Tasha if she was bearing two souls, which she said no, because to her knowledge, she doesn't bear two souls in her. But she did tell him about having housed the shard of Ixtab so for a while, which she found slightly disturbing. We did find out about the whole Thaddeus Brooch thing. Tasha was not very stoked about finding out that he is actually her real father. And her parents are not even partially her real parents, but not her parents at all. So yeah, she's a little salty at the moment, and you know, yeah, salty pretty much describes her actual state of mind when it comes to these things. There was the thing of having that Thaddeus had two daughters from different mothers, so it became apparent that Ida was, or is, sorry, is Tasha's half sister, which she's fine with because Ida has been a sister to her anyway and a best friend, so she's cool with that. Oh, now I lost my notes because I'm a dingus. Give me a second. Please hold the line. I cannot recap without notes, sorry. Yeah, we left the Temple of Eternity at some point, refreshed and found a nice little hotel to stay in. Had the talk with Tasha's aunt and uncle, which actually are her aunt and uncle, and one of them at least is Thaddeus' sibling. So at least something is true. They said a lot of presents are waiting for Tasha because they promised Thaddeus to not interfere with her upbringing, but taking care of gifting her something for birthday and I don't know, Christmas or whatever every year. So she has to fetch those presents at some point, but for now, it is important that we gather the council members that are under attack by the assassins so they can summon the ivory dragon, who then might take care of the rest of the assassin, and Hollowfaust would be safe again. And that is what Captain Tankei actually entered to fetch us for, saving Professor Vakdalala first, who's currently on her demiplane. Yeah, that's where we left off. Ida.
Yeah, so I have a sister now, which is
Half
good.
sister.
Pedantics. I have even more questions, and nobody seems to want to answer them. And that's a problem for another time, I guess, because we are doing what Tasha said. We're gonna stop these assassins and wake the ivory dragon. So, yeah, Lyle.
You don't have a lot to add, honestly. I kind of was also like Victor was, kind of just there. We were just kind of hanging out, listening to everybody figure out where their family and everything is. The bus that they were using for the uncle and aunt to communicate was definitely a crazy thing, and now we have two ways of communicating with those people, which I think is pretty wild. Belly Tumbler. He seems to know a bit more, I think, than he lets on, honestly. Yeah, and I honestly, I don't think we have to add more than that. So I'll pass it to Monty.
Well, as with Victor and Lyle, I was on the backstage myself, more or less keeping to myself and just watching Ida's new family unfold, almost like a soap opera type thing. Uh, and everyone's kind of filled in with everything what's been going on, so I really have nothing more to add to it. I don't know if the parties notice I've been staying to myself a lot more than usual, but that's something to come up later. I hope not, but I guess the only one that's left is uh, Rain.
Yeah, I agree. I think all has been said, and Rain indeed has found some peace after speaking to the High Priest. And actually, it would be funny if Ivy would come back as a bunny rabbit. So please, no one ever hunt bunny rabbits again. It could be Ivy. um, yeah, that's about it. So she was also kind of surprised how all these family relations unfold. Let's see if by the end we see that all of our characters are related. Yeah, back to Shoggy.
I really thought Tomar was wearing a tie today, but it's actually just his beard. Right, so after when we ended last session, you had talked to Tanke, the Hollowfaust captain of the guard, and they had given you some information. And well, it's kind of up to you how you want to apply your party and the your resources after your newfound intel. So, what were you planning on doing? If you would be so kind as to give me a quick rundown of the plan for what the party is up to at the moment.
I think our first thing is we're trying to get to the demi-plane to kind of free that professor. I think that's what it was initially we were going to be doing. So we can get her to get the other ones, and I think they need, is it 3 or 4 to awaken the ivory dragon? I don't remember.
3/4.
3/4. So I was right. 3 and 4. 3/4.
Yes, correct.
How many professors are there?
Wouldn't you like to know?
I'm asking Tasha.
How would I know? I never entered the academy, and I actually never had interest in all of this stuff before my aunt and uncle showed up. So,
Well, then we'll start with one, and perhaps they can tell us.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, how do we get there?
Well, I actually had hoped that Captain Tankei could help us with a little bit of directions.
So until he's back, we'll just have to wait?
Okay, question to the DM: Did Tankei actually leave? I thought they were still here.
No, they're still there.
Oh, right. I thought they were
oh.
going to get stuff for Baldigunda.
No, there's been a requisition for Baldigunda, but there are troopers, or well, not so much troopers. The Hollowfaust City Guard is 90% undead, and most of it that's alive are actually necromancers. So at the moment, you're sitting around in the city guard's planning room, a situation you've found yourself in several other cities in the last 14 months where you've been active. And just so Ida's aware of it, Captain Tankei doesn't seem to actually be he or a she.
Fair enough.
But takes you about 2 cups of very strong hollow faust coffee. The type of coffee you can chew if you put your mind to it. For the city guard return with a spear, but an obsidian, long, maybe a foot long, and fairly wide obsidian tip. For Baldigunda, in addition to a very, very black plate armor and corresponding large, heavy shield. Which he, of course, starts getting into as soon as it's available.
Well, if that doesn't keep you safe, I don't know what will.
Love, it's not to keep me safe, it's so that I can keep you safe.
How about you keep yourself safe first for once, for now, and we talk about the rest later. I think I had enough of losing you at the moment. Almost losing you, that is. Thankfully so.
As she dons the last pieces of the armor, it shimmers for a bit, and then changes appearance to that of the clothing she was wearing.
Oh, that is practical.
That's a neat trick.
Yeah, Captain Tankei nods, and yes, the Guardians must be able to follow their charges into every sort of social situation. As such, all of their armor and war gear is glamoured. Not every tea party allows for the bringing of heavy arms and equipment, after all. Do you have a plan on how to attack this conundrum Hollowfaust finds itself in?
Head first.
Well, that can be construed as a plan, I suppose.
Look, I'm not the tactician of the group.
Looking at the captain.
Well, I think we're planning to try and get the that one professor from her demi plane first, and then go from there. Get the professor's actual name.
Waktalala.
Yeah, okay, Professor Waktalala first before we pursue anything further, because she will probably help us to help us get to the other professors that are under their they have their own protection right now.
Ah, yes. If you're going to try to rescue Professor Lakdavala, we don't know what's going on inside that demiplane of hers, but I can dispatch a squad of elite guard to escort you to the premises.
That would be nice. And it's not our first time we're on a demiplane, so.
I do declare, Professor, you get to travel many interesting places with this band of companions you've chosen.
Well, yeah. Last time we were on a demiplane, it was a demiplane of hell. So I get around, I suppose.
I should say. There has been traces of a demonic presence in Holofaust as well, but well, that is a matter for once the current crisis has been resolved, I dare say.
I'm not surprised that there's demons involved.
Yes, we're not surprised at all. I don't know if you ever got notification from us from I forget the place. We sent messages out of people being becoming hosts to demons, and they'd be sent into all the different countries on the continent.
Cannot say that I have received any such message, no.
Was that about a year ago?
No, it has not been that long ago, I think.
6 months, roughly.
6 months roughly. Oh, that seems too short.
You've had some very active 6 months.
So yeah, we sent out messages 6 months ago to all the different countries, baronies, etc., on a lot of these hosts. To keep an eye on any changes they might see in certain people. They were being they have demons inside them, and they're using their body as a host.
This is something I definitely need to hear more about. Give me a moment, and then they turn to a messenger that's arrived. Reads. It's a sort of unnerving for those of you not used to Holofaust to see a skeleton in plate armor enter and bow before the captain before handing them a piece of chalkboard. Once they've read the message, they look decidedly more as if things have gotten urgent. I must apologize, gentlemen. It seems we have a rioting over in the gladiators' quarters. Something has made the gladiators start attacking my city guard. I will have to head out and deal with that situation. Please search me down once you have visited Professor Laktavala.
Perhaps you should go with him, my love.
Right. I'll follow the captain and give him a bit of a hand then.
Captain, do you have access to dispelling magic? I suppose you have.
Yes, indeed. It is a staple of the Holofaust city guard, as you
Yep.
might well imagine in a city this large that mostly lives by magic.
Try that with the arena people. We had a bit of a run-in lately, very often actually, with people who were enchanted by vampires and turn on each other. So maybe it's a case of that, since one of these vampires lives in Holofaust. So I could imagine she has her fingers in the whole thing.
Maybe I can help in this situation.
It's a very handy piece of information, says the captain. And Ellie Tumbler puts a under his helmet. He puts what looks like a thin baking sheet of metal, a bright metal he's picked up somewhere. Don't worry, love. I've got my thinking hat on. Won't be no enchanting of me.
I give him a kiss, and I assume we'll meet back.
Like I said, maybe there's a way I can help with what's going on.
We're gonna
We
need you
need
here, or wherever we're going.
Believe me, Captain, Holofaust is a very magical place. I'm sure.
I understand, but from what I'm seeing right now, they can't control it. Very well.
You're supposed to give them some time to respond to the crisis, Captain, before assuming they can't handle it.
The magicians cannot handle the assassins that have been trained to kill them. But if it's just about people who are enchanted, I'm pretty sure Captain Tunke got it covered. Especially when Belly Tumbler is hipping.
Whatever you say. Let's go.
Be careful, Royal.
Exiting the guard barracks and erstwhile Temple of Turris in Hollowfaust, you find another young elf this time, dressed in the black robes, large hat, and broad scarf of the necromancers of Hollowfaust. This one wielding a spear with the haft engraved with magical runes, and another 20 skeletal soldiers clad in heavy plate armor. She stands to attention as you exit and... Professor, yes, I'm ready to... It's an honor. I'll... Kind of blushing. I'll be happy to lead you anywhere you wish to go, Professor.
That is very gracious of you. I appreciate that. God, I still need to get used to this whole professor thing.
Sounds like someone's starstruck.
Lead on, Professor.
Ah, goodness gracious. Well, if you might be so kind as to bring us to the premises of Professor Laktawalla's manor, so we can help her out.
It will be a pleasure. Please, you will need to imbibe some of these herbs each. And then she passes out a small square of various herbs, packed so as to be a simple thing to take in one bite. They will give you approximately 4 hours of being able to breathe underwater before you'll have to supply your own spells.
Oh my.
From one extreme demi-plane to the other extreme demi-plane.
That bears the question. What is Professor Laktawala a waterborne person?
Oh, Professor Laktawala, being of the not breathing variety, chose to build her mansion in the lake next to the Temple of Eternity so that she wouldn't be bothered by door salesmen quite as much.
I should try that too.
No door salesman or not breathing?
Building a mansion in the lake so I'm getting less bothered by, some things.
I built mine on a hill just to make sure people can't get up unless I want them to.
It'll add new meaning to Beauty of the Lake.
Oh,
It will
God.
indeed.
I swear to God, I'm going to move to the desert. Baldigunde, what do you think? Should we move to the desert after all of this?
Then you could be Beauty of the Oasis.
Shut up, Lyle.
Or
Lyle
Beauty
has
of
a
the
point,
Sand.
Philip. The young elven necromancer leads you down to a pier where you can see several civilians standing around fishing with fishing rods, and just marches straight past them and down a path of stairs that have been built at the end of the pier.
Well, at least the lake should be warm.
That's the point. I hate getting my wings wet.
I believe you.
They don't quite work as well underwater.
Mine just get heavy. These are not water repellent feathers.
Maybe I can teach you to make them appear and disappear at some point. I wonder if it's possible, but maybe for another time.
I would love that.
And with that, I assume you plunge into the lake. Walking walking down into it, the water is surprisingly clear. You can see fairly far under the lake. There are houses, actually quite a fair amount, in the lake itself, underwater. But the young elven necromancer leads you towards one of the larger mansions, situated up next to the huge stone outcrop upon which the Temple of Eternity itself is built.
I'll give my little square to Tonka, because I can already breathe underwater. And I'll kind of swim around the temple and see while everybody's like doing their thing. See if I can find anything weird.
Right. So Lyle kind of moves as if he was born to water, swims like a fish. Well, from what Lyle can see, there's a lot of eels swimming around the upper waters of the lake. That seems to be what people are fishing for. Most of the housing is built further down, where the lake starts getting, well, for regular people, unpleasantly warm. Pretty certain that there's a volcanic fissure in the middle of the lake with some magical warding around it. And Lyle's not certain, but, well, he can't confirm it, but he is pretty certain that there are holes in the walls circling the lake where there's some sort of guardians or security force ready to deploy into the lake proper. Otherwise, seems like there are two types of people in the lake. Either races that, well, would wish to live in a lake. You can see merfolk, tritons, sea elves, a couple of different varieties of fish people, and a small minority, maybe 10% of the dwellings under the lake, are protected by magic, so that it's the water doesn't actually reach inside their fences.
Okay. If I don't see anything like crazy or anything alarming, then I'm just gonna swim back to the party.
Very well. Coming up on the mansion itself, it's built in a style of an architectural style you haven't seen since you visited Whitehaven. Very, very old the white caulked walls with mosaics covering the floors. In this case, beautiful mosaics of a well, forest. It seems. And looking around, Lyle spots several drifting shoals of ash.
Like from the volcanic thing under the water?
No, more. These would be, if they hadn't started drifting apart, roughly humanoid sized
Oh shit.
before turning into piles of ash.
So I'll grab some of it and I'll like look around and I'll be like, I assume I'm still like away from the rest of the party.
Yeah, you're about 30 feet over them at the moment. They're walking on the seabed towards the mansion. There's a lot of plate armor that doesn't really lend itself well to swimming.
So, like touching this, does it seem like this was like a body or something of that nature, or?
Lyle's fairly confident that at some point this was probably a body.
The mosaic of the forest and such. Does this look familiar to me at all?
Give me a knowledge nature, good sir. It's gonna be pretty simple for you, but who knows? You could roll a 1. Yeah, still good enough. Either Professor Lochtawala has recently visited Louisenthal, or Professor Lochtawala, when she had the mosaic made, had seen primeval forest like the sort that sprouted up around Louisenthal with plants and types of trees and other forest things that haven't really existed for a couple of millennia.
So this is like a recreation of something very similar to my own forest?
You could definitely assume that, yes.
So Lau kind of shakes his head and he looks around and he's just like, I should probably go talk to the captain, and I'll start swimming. I'm gonna try to drag some of that volcanic ash back with me, though.
Yeah, it's difficult to get a fair amount, but you have to kind of press it pretty hard in your palms for it not to just drift away when you swim, because it's very, very fine. But you can bring two small bricks of it down in your hands. Swimming down to Evrock and the others.
Captain,
Well, to the rest of you, it doesn't look like Lyle swims as much as he just kind of comfortably glides around in the water.
we should talk. There's clearly something going on here. And I'll present one of the bricks and I'll be like, there's something going on where maybe people are burning. I'm not exactly sure. There's definitely like the remains of people floating in this water. And also, if you look around, there's a lot of pictures, there's a lot of things that are drawn that directly relate to the primeval forest around Louisenthal. We should be very careful because I feel like there's something going on here.
Well, could these bricks or these dust be assassins that attempted to get to her?
Very well could be. I can't determine, and I'll just like once again I'll present the brick and I'll be like, there's no telling what this was at some point other than it was a person.
And as for the mosaic of possible Louisenthal, around Louisenthal, I'm unfamiliar with that as seeing it here. But you're right. We should proceed cautiously.
I will say, no, go ahead.
No, you do it.
I will say, I can't tell you exactly that this is the same forest that I am familiar with, but I will tell you that the person in my dream, he is a very strong individual. And so anyone who's dreaming about these forests or recreating it with pictures and things of that nature probably knows a bit more than you think.
As you get to the gates, the young necromancer pulls a board out of her pouch with some sheets of paper on it, as well as an inkwell and a pen. And looks up at everybody and, okay, I will need you all to sign this paper. It is nothing dramatic, but it is well known that only other professors or individuals enrolled in Professor Lochtawala's class can enter the walls of her mansion. Anybody else will simply be teleported outside the city walls.
Okay, I guess that is my obligation then.
Oh, no, ma'am. You are a professor. You should be able to enter without issue, but the others
So-
will need to enroll in Professor Lochtawala's class, the Ethics of Undeath.
Oh boy.
I don't feel like that's something I would like.
You are, of course, free to not show up in class and fail the course, but you need to be enrolled to be able to enter the walls.
Fine, pass it over.
Is there anything like money involved here? Do we need to pay for these classes?
In this case, the city of Hollowfaust has decided to waive the usual university fee for a class.
They better.
If we're here to help them, why do we have to enroll in a class?
Yeah.
Is there something you can do to inform these
Going
people
to
that
be magic. There's magic involved, and this is the way that they circumvent the magic without having to have someone reattune the spells every time that they wish to have a visitor.
So,
Indeed, the ward chaplain is correct.
So, Victor, there's no problem with the text here, right?
No, the text is completely legit, although demanding a 95% rate of showing up in class is just downright sadistic when it starts at 6 in the morning.
Well,
It appears to only matter for people actually planning on attending the classes.
time to fail my first university class then. I sign.
Seems to be a 460-hour class on the ethics of undeath. And this is the introductory class.
Yep, welcome to Holocaust.
How
I
does
understand now why you didn't join the academy.
how does ink work underwater? And I'm just looking at the paper and the pen, and I'm just like, what are we doing here?
What we have to, I suppose. As we
It
usually
works.
do.
It works. Don't ask too many questions.
Does seem like there may be some magic involved.
Lau just kind of grumbles to himself and signs the paper.
Loud,
Yes.
there's magic all around us. Just get used to
Hmm.
it.
As Lyle asks the question, the necromancer looks up and, well, we tried using pencils for a while, but they have this annoying tendency of floating away if you let go of them.
Lau's just staring at Tasha, and he's like, "Are you gonna burst into song at any time, or?"
No, that's your future wife's job. Thank you.
Oh wow,
Well, we are in the lake.
the beauty of the lake.
It seems like Lal is getting some Bard training.
Listen, I gotta help Arushale any way I can. You know, let's be real. Or Nasharam. Sorry, wrong game.
Rain's looking to the necromancer. What about assistants to professors? Can they enter? And she looks to Tasha. I could be your assistant.
Rain, I like you very much, but I'm already burdened with a stupendous amount of titles that I never wanted. I will not have an assistant. Thank you for offering, though.
even though she has 2 or 3 assistants back at Louisenthal, okay.
They are not my assistants, they are my apprentices, and that's a difference.
We'll be your students instead.
Sure, if that puts you at ease, be my students. I will teach you how to sleep in, how to ignore wake up calls, and how to burn eggs.
I'm gonna ace that class.
Me too.
You will all fail terribly because all of you are good at getting up early and at making eggs.
Oh no, I can definitely burn eggs. I don't think I've made one.
Well, it's not like I can let you guys go in there alone, so come on, give me that thing here. And she
Someone has to
signed.
keep us from dying, you know.
Hoping not to do that this time.
And as
Yes,
Rain
I mean-
signs, the young lady cackles evilly. Ah, ha, 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 we have you now! Looking at Rain's stricken expression, she goes, "No, I'm just joking. But if you could sign this," and then she pulls out the newest edition of the Tales of the Red Lions Penny Dreadful?
No.
I'll just sign it for her. I'll sign Tasha's name on it.
Don't you dare, Lyle. I swear to all the gods above.
Just for the effect right now, when she giggled like that, Rain used one of her wild shapes and just turned into a water, into a dolphin to hide like a few hundred meters away.
She looks like she feels bad about it, looking at the dolphin hiding over behind the mailbox.
You better should feel bad about this. People are dying, and we need our spells to deal with the situation, so think about what you did there. Otherwise, a good joke. I approve.
Right, once Lyle signs the Penny Dreadful, she looks very happy, hugging it to her chest and kind of jumping up and down a bit.
Another satisfied customer.
Or
He's been getting the best training.
Maybe we should just sell signed Penny Dreadfuls, and we will never run out of money ever again.
We could charge for it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We will sign special editions that we have signed, like, really with real ink. We will never run out of money.
Note to self: the Duchess loves Penny Dreadfuls.
Which Duchess?
Both, turns out.
Let's go.
right,
We don't have time to waste.
entering the the walls of the mansion, you suddenly hear music. Very calming string instrument music of a type that's popular in Friedrichstadt.
Been a while since I've heard a tune like this.
Walking up towards as you walk up towards the doors, they open up, and there's a long, probably automated magical message about grading papers when they will be delivered back, and what you need to do to get an extension.
What do you need to do to get an extension?
It seems like divine intervention is the most common theme when it comes to that.
So miracle or better then.
Entering
Better off
the
spending the time you'd have to pray at the temple for the intervention to just do the homework.
entering the mansion, you can see that the walls, roofs, and floors are all covered with different mosaics depicting, well, it's hard to say what they're depicting, because most of it, both the styles of clothing and weapons and armor on the ones containing people are archaic, of a style not used for a very long time. Yes, Monty.
Do we recognize this armor from Whitehaven?
Yes, you do. Seems to be the same sort of style. And walking into the main dining room or greeting room, this seems to be more used as, because there's no dining table, but there's a lot of chairs and a blackboard at the end of it. You can see that the roof is on the roof. There's a mosaic of 3 women. One in a gray robe with long green hair. One in a white robe and One in a beautiful blue robe, with blue and one with blue and one with golden hair, and the green-haired woman seems to be smiting the other two with some sort of spell. You can see both of them being encased in ice on the mosaic.
Is this part of the class?
Tasha shifts uneasily.
And on the side of that mosaic, standing with one leg on each side of what seems to be a small village at the bottom of a volcano, is another woman holding a staff identical to the one now in Tasha's hands.
I think that's meant to be Holofaust and Ixtab.
Mm-hmm. That would be correct. That will be correct. Once upon a time, I think she was pretty big in Holofaust.
How old are these?
It's likely a depiction of Ixtab from before she was a goddess.
That would make them, well, at a guess, at least 3 millennia old.
Back to the beginnings of Holofaust, then.
Or the ending of one and the beginning of another. Wasn't the village destroyed by a volcano?
You're right, it was. That could be the earlier village before the current city was founded.
Could that be why we're underwater? That we're basically in something from the old village?
Does
Based
Tasha
on those-
know?
Um,
Sorry, Finn.
No, she would not. She would not know that, having spent any time at the academy or really knowing any of the secrets of Holofaust. She can
That's
neither
true.
confirm nor deny that. It's been a long time since she spent any time in Holofaust.
A few years, yeah.
Wrong roll.
Well, I can't really tell, to be honest. I have no idea about Holocaust history, to be fair.
Yeah, this would be history going so far back that it's not in current in any current history curriculum. You would have to be a specialized ancient historian or visit, say, a library if you had that sort of thing available to you.
But since the professor seems to be a specialist in the ethics of undeath, maybe she might know more about how all of this undeath business has come to Holofaust and how it is connected to Monire, or later Ixtab. I don't know. We can ask her if we manage to rescue her.
I think this all seems really directly related, and we should be very careful of this individual.
We are technically her students now, so we should definitely ask. But we must save her first. Let's continue.
Right. What are you gonna do?
Must have some type of portal to get to their demi-plane. We gotta find it.
I'm gonna do a sweep of the room while we're deciding.
Right. Tasha or Lyle, Laney, and Rain start moving about the room. It's obviously set up as a sort of an impromptu or informal conversation room / lecture hall. There's several volumes, 17, that you can see about the ethics of undeath, penned by a Professor Laktavala.
Is there any sign that anyone has like been through this room at any point? Like, can we see any kind of like movement or anything like that?
Lyle focuses the currents indicate that there have been assaults or somebody trying to enter the premises of the mansion, except the rest of you.
There's clearly something going on here. Like, we're not the only people who are trying to get into this place. I'd be very curious to see like who's looking for her and why, right?
Victor's going to cast Detect Magic.
I would guess that the assassins have been trying to get to the professor. That might be the other signs that we see. Can Laney detect any signs of a hidden door or portal?
Nope, Laney can't find any signs of that. Victor moves up to the blackboard to have a look at it, but the convoluted argument about the ethics of undeath currently on the blackboard just gives him a headache.
Tasha, come have a look at this, please. I can't make heads or tails of it for the text on it.
I had the suspicion you would say that. Tasha's going to take a look at the ethics of undeath.
Right. As Tasha moves up to the blackboard, the letter starts swirling on it before reforming in the shape of a door.
Well, this could be anything. This could be a trap. This could be our way. Can Tasha investigate the door a little closer to see if this is the way to go?
Feel free. Give me a Arcana roll, please.
I'm good at that. Ooh.
Yes, Tasha is fairly certain that this leads to another plane.
This is our way. It's not a clock. It's just a chalkboard, so a little disappointing, but I think this is where we have to go.
I'll be right back.
Now, of course, I wonder who got that reference, but
I want one of those.
The clock, is it by chance The Last Unicorn?
yes. Thank you.
I love that movie.
Me too.
I would have never guessed.
I mean,
Nerds.
nerd yourself.
If there's a non-nerd, can they step 15 feet to the right, please?
I don't think anyone can do that right now.
That's because we're all nerds.
Yup.
Wait, what? What?
Shut up, Tolmar. You're a nerd.
What? How rude.
That's who I am. People only think I'm nice, but I'm actually rude. I just camouflage it really well.
You camouflage being a nerd?
No, being rude.
Oh, okay, nerd.
I am a nerd, so I'm not fighting you on that one.
Oh, we watched that movie once, The Last Unicorn. Luna is a big fan of it. Don't tell her that I said that, though.
Why?
I guess you'd have to ask her.
She'd make him watch it again.
Yes, exactly. He knows.
I have watched that movie so many times. It's one of the movies that are actually getting played at Christmas here in Germany.
Yep.
Also, Home Alone.
Home Alone
Hold
is here as well.
Let me put my surprise face on. Hold on. I've been working on it. How's it going?
Very
Mm.
nice. Wouldn't think you were that surprised by me coming and sitting down, but
Oh, hi, Shago. We weren't talking about you, The Last Unicorn.
the last one. Right.
If
Okay,
Pathfinding
then.
Adventures reaches a level 5 hype to never, I'm gonna sing a full rendition of America's The Last Unicorn.
Oh.
Yes.
I look forward to that.
Now we have goals.
Very
We
much.
need to
Very
spread
nice.
the words.
It only counts if none of the active moderators and players are, doing all the work, because that would be just, unfair.
Okay.
Why?
Dang, I was about to do it myself.
Yeah, fuck, man.
Okay. What are you guys doing? Except shenanigans, because that kind of answers itself every time.
Well, Tasha is doing a little bow.
Your call, Tasha. You're the professor. You're the one that opened the door. Well, found the door.
You know what? I'm gonna go first this time, because last time I said it is safe. We lost Lyle, and I'm not gonna do that another time. So I'll catch you on the other side then, Captain. And she's jumping through the portal.
I'm following.
And me.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll go as well.
Yeah.
Right. Tasha reaches out, grabs
I'll take up the rear then.
Thank you. Grabs the chalk doorknob on the blackboard and opens the door. Steps through it and finds herself. Well, she looks around. She can smell books more than anything else. See, she's standing in a gazebo made of white marble. There's a little lake further down with where she can see what looks like villagers and children washing clothes and playing around in the water. Looking around her, there's rolling hills with lush green grass. Again, plants and trees of a type that she's only seen in Lyle's primeval forest. And on the in the gazebo itself, there's a large table and several bookshelves lining the walls, but not stopping the openings on the sides. And at the end of the table, there's a very beautiful, tall woman with long blue hair. And chestnut, pristine chestnut-colored skin. And smiles at Tasha as she walks through the door. And then raises one permanently groomed eyebrow as the rest of the party come stumbling in, weapons in hand.
Are we now on above the water again?
There's no water except in the lake at the moment that you can see. You can also hear children laughing from it.
I sheath my rapier and start fanning my wings to try to get the water out of them.
I'll press the digitate everyone dry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Lockdawalla?
He looks at Tasha like, well, Professor, I see you've brought quite the class with you. Would you care to introduce your companions to me?
Well, all of them are grown adults, and I'm pretty sure they can introduce themselves. If you would be so kind, folks.
I'm known as Laney, Professor.
I am Ida Vanju.
Victor Arvandas.
And I'm Lyle, and I'm gonna start looking around the room without even like looking at her at all.
I'm Evok Strongaxe.
I'm Rain. Hello.
Well, I dare say this is quite a surprise. She looks at Tasha again. I had assumed that you would be storming through that door, leading legions of assassins and other mindless undead to tear me to shreds.
Why would I do that? We're here to rescue you. We need to summon the Ivory Dragon.
Yes. You see, that door can only be opened by somebody of my bloodline, and the only one that I was aware of was, well, my sister. I can see from your auras that you've recently met her.
Oh wait, question, DM.
Yes, that would be me.
Is that one of the three sisters? Is that the one with blue hair?
Yes.
Why did I note down her name?
It's a pleasure to meet you all. Hollow Faust knows me as Professor Samira Lakdawala, but you may call me Sabine.
It's a pleasure, Sabine.
Well, from your companions, I do feel almost a glimmer of hope for the future, seeing that your friend there, and she looks at Idice, wielding my aunt's rapier.
I bow.
More relatives?
Why am I not even surprised anymore?
I'm just surprised at where we're finding them now.
And indeed, there's my father's sword as well. And the unmistakable aura of my grandfather on this champion of the green you've brought. She smiles even more dazzlingly as she looks at Lyle.
No, it's just kind of flipping through a book, and he's like, "Yeah, green. We like green."
You've also inherited his temperament, I see.
I don't know what you mean. Also, what an interesting book.
Ah, yes, the Fluid Dynamics of Thaumaturgy, Volume 3. From your attire, I would not have assumed you would find it interesting, but I have been surprised before.
Well, I'm not deflecting at all. I'm a learned man, and I like books. And he just kind of looks at the book a little closer.
Is that upside down?
Lady, don't you have something you're supposed to be doing?
He walks over to a side table where there suddenly appear several goblets of made of silver and a pitcher of wine that she starts pouring. And you, Professor, who would you be?
That's right. I guess I'm getting used to everyone already knowing who I am. I should really get unused to that habit. My name is Tasha.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Tasha. There's a certain comfort in anonymity that you'll learn to appreciate once the millennia start piling on, believe me.
I mean,
Please, could you tell me what is the status of Holofaust at the moment? Are they managing without me there?
well, as I was saying, we are trying to gather the professors to summon the Ivory Dragon. I surmise that should tell you that there is enough assassins up there to keep the professors apart, which is not a good thing. Regarding the whole void and well, other problem, your sister is currently taking care of that.
The
Rebecca?
pragmatic. She has gotten a lot more social after devoting herself to that new crush of hers.
I would not necessarily call her social, to be honest, but sure.
Well, when she had devoted herself to the teachings of our mother, she worked at being the greatest monster that she could be. As Ixtab's teaching show that the undead are supposed to be the tormentors of the living, and she was very, very good at it. You could ask anybody from the nation of Atelera. Oh wait, no. It doesn't exist any longer. Because she killed everyone. However, after she devoted herself to Soth, who, if misguided, at least has what he thinks is a benign view on death, she has, how do you say in this day and age, mellowed out somewhat.
That's good to know. She even was up for a little peace treaty, or well, non-aggression pact. So that was at least in our favor.
Hmm. Well, please, if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them, but be aware that I cannot follow you out of my study here, and, well, at least not in the way that you are hoping I will.
So I almost don't want to ask, to be honest. Ask only questions you really want the answers to, I suppose. But you said I'm of your bloodline in some way, so how did that happen?
Well, yes, obviously, you must be of my bloodline, or you would not have been able to enter. I expect it's from one of my early dalliances, back when this was only a small village, long before it became Holofaust itself, and I still, well, enjoyed the pleasures of a pulse and working biological functions. That would be very, very long ago. I could go into how the bloodline, not just, say, grandmother and the grandchild as you know it, but the thaumaturgical implications of being part of a bloodline, which is a lot more complicated. But
I'll
for
say.
that sort of thing, you would have to, or I would recommend you talk to Professor Hakim, who teaches a class on it instead. It is a very boring and long-winded subject.
If people respected the implications of bloodlines, they would do a much better job of tracking who their children and their children's children were.
You know, the bard who made the music for in my mansion for me said just the same thing. Sorceress of some note, but much more attuned to the lute than, well, most other instruments really than thaumaturgical research.
Her name wouldn't happen to be Valeri, would it?
Oh yes, young Valerie, quite a talented bard,
She,
I would say.
I would hope she knows. She got far more lectures on it than I ever did.
Ah,
She's got more important roles being, a lady heir.
and there we go, the importance of bloodlines. Suffice to say that a bloodline might manifest itself in a talented child, but very seldom in a mediocre sibling. And it could skip several generations. Indeed, I haven't seen anyone from my bloodline in so long that I thought it had gone extinct finally. But here you are, a professor of Hollowfaust. And a talented necromancer, I assume. She looks at Tasha again.
I'm not a necromancer.
Really? Well, that's the best news of the day. Maybe there is hope for the bloodline after all.
Well, don't count on me to rescue your bloodline. You all messed up quite a bit, I suppose.
Seems you've picked up some of the family history along the way. Yes, indeed.
Your mother visits me in dreams once in a while. Tasha taps the staff she's holding.
And she looks genuinely surprised as Tasha says that. Really? Is she a dreadful undead hag by any chance?
Well, if she decides to show her real face, yes.
Well, after a couple of millennia, the concept of a real face gains a bit more nuance. We have several real faces throughout a lifetime, and, well, the longer it is, the more real faces we'll have. I knew her as a healer before the great mistake made by what I am starting to suspect must be not just mine, but our ancestors. And she sweeps her arm to cover the entire room. After all, you are wielding the artifacts of the imperial family. My family.
Lyle moves on to the next book that he doesn't even look at the words, and he's like, it's kind of weird. How come you're the one who knows all these things about this?
Well, young Mr. Lyle, I was there when the great mistake happened. Well, not as a part of it, but I lived. Well, life in itself is I guess, a matter of theological discussion whether being undead is still alive or not, but
If you were alive, do you know the name Bikan?
I do. Please, how do you know that name?
Well, he told me his name wouldn't be in any history books, so I was kinda in trouble to find more information about him.
This does not surprise me, because he was more attuned to my grandfather, the one whose power your champion of the green here now carries, and she nods to Lyle.
You seem to be related to everybody. Why did you choose to stay here?
Well, I'll keep it very short, but after the great mistake, my siblings and aunts and uncles, they realized that divinity was not what they thought it was. It was not a mantle that they could grab and mold and command as they themselves wished. Indeed, the rules for the divine, for the gods, if you will, are even stricter than the rules the gods lay down upon us. And as such, there were roles that had to be filled, whether they wanted to or not. And so, my mother, who had envisioned herself as a goddess of healing, instead ended up as the goddess of undeath, a wild and uncontrollable force of destruction for the longest time. I tried to rally my sisters. We were her apprentices at the time to destroy her. But alas, Rebecca instead joined her and tried. She killed my oldest sister and almost me. I followed them to a small village, the foot of a volcano. You today know it as Hollowfaust. And there was an altercation. The only way I could continue my existence so that I could continue to oppose my mother, Ixtab, as she was called then, was to bind my life force to this village, this volcano. So you see, I haven't been able to leave for some time now. Instead, using the knowledge and arcane know-how of my day to subtly guide Hollowfaust towards a more ethical way of dealing with undeath, in the hopes that it would be a deterrent to those who would follow Ixtab. After all, why stay in a dingy crypt eating grilled rat and only speaking to undead minions who can only go blarg when you can actually go to a university and eat at the mess hall and have interesting intellectual conversations with other necromancers without all the hullabaloo of hiding in a damp cellar somewhere and being hunted by the champions of the gods of law and order. Alas, presenting the alternative has had some effect, but not the sweeping changes I had wished to see.
Lyle shakes his head a bit and he kind of looks at her and he's like, seems like your family is a little rough. Someday I hope to speak to your grandfather about invading people's dreams and the bodies that he likes to leave behind afterwards.
He never was part of the great mistake. And as far as I know, grandfather still slumbers. So, if he has reached out to you, embedded a spark of his power in your soul, well, I fear there are greater calamities about to unfold than a simple attack of assassins upon the professors of Holocaust.
Lyle just keeps a straight face and he looks at her and he goes, I don't know what you mean.
Very well.
I have a question.
Yes, my dear.
Why does your mother want me to match you and your sister's strength?
Well, that is both easy and difficult for me to answer. The easy answer would be that she suspects or knows that you will need that power in the coming times. I do not know why, though. She never would allow anybody to reach her level of mastery over the arcane when she was, well, wearing the mantle of Ixtab. You may actually be lucky enough to meet a fragment of who she was before she was turned into the goddess of the undeath.
I
Or
mean,
maybe
she
the mantle itself has finally torn itself loose from her, because there is something, if not Ixtab, then as close to it as you can get, vying for power over the planes of lost souls with the new Death Lord. In short, among the undead there is a war, civil war, which is a silly question, a silly name for something that is very much not civil. Quite uncivil, in fact. And this has torn the planes of torment into fragments. What do you know of the mechanics of undeath?
all I know about undeath is what I ever encountered while living in Hollowfaust. I'm not, I do not dabble with necromancy, so I'm certainly not professional in knowledge regarding that.
Well, let me paint you a very broad picture. Undeath, as it occurs naturally, although many would disagree with undeath as a natural thing, is when a soul is denied entrance into the afterlife. This was something that was created after the Great Mistake. There was no such thing as undeath before the old gods were slain. It used to be that two things could happen to a soul that was denied going into the afterlife. Either the soul itself went to the plane of mindless torment, and the body, well, started shambling around as a zombie or other lower mindless form of undead. Or the half of the soul was torn away, and the other half stayed, leaving what you know as the undead with minds, the vampires and liches of your world. And then half of the soul would be tormented in what was known as the plane of tattered souls. These were the two planes that Ixtab, as goddess of undeath, held reign over, herself having to divide her attention. But with the new Death Lord, now most of the souls go to a new plane, the Field of Eternal Legions, where they fight in his, well, undying army. And those who reach a higher state of undeath reside in the Tower of Still Minds, in the same plane, thus letting him avoid having to split his tension between two different planes. All of these are fed by an unknown force of undeath, not connected to Ixtab or the Death Lord himself, and after several millennia, still a mystery to me where these planes would be getting their power, but it is undeniably divine in nature. In this case, I speak not as in the divine as in good or evil gods, but of divine, godlike providence.
So, are you saying that at some point, the current civil war between the undead would cause balance problems?
Well, currently, the civil war between the undead is, I would assume, a good thing for those still of a living and breathing persuasion, as mindless undead and undead guided by the purpose of the Death Lord tear into each other instead of gathering to attack towns and villages half of the time. What worries me is that during the Great Mistake, something was created that powers these planes, and we do not know what. I do believe the Master Dwarf has a question.
You have any ideas on void and void creatures or anything like that?
It is not my strong suit. I know that there are denizens, dwellers, if you will, of the void or the stars or the thing in between the stars, but it is not something I have devoted much time to researching. For that, there is a scholar in, I think the country is named Abernath these days. Duchess Torash, I believe her name is. An elf. Quite long-lived, although young still in my eyes. Was a scholar of the stars and the things in between them. For any more questions about the void, I would definitely recommend you talk to her.
Well, it's good to know.
And I am kind of friends with the king, so
I would ask of you, my descendant, one favor. Once you run out of questions and are ready to leave.
Well, I'm listening. Unless any of my companions have questions, of course.
I
Just
don't.
remember to find out how many we need for
yeah,
the
you need
dragon.
to- exactly.
I would love to hear more about Bikan, but I don't want to delay our tasks here.
Well, my dear, Bekan, of course, I could say, well, not too much about, to be honest. Bekan was a healer, but unlike me and my sisters, he never took to the arcane arts. Bekan, like our grandfather, was connected to the power of creation, the prime power, what we back in our, even in our time, called the old magics. To answer your question, the gods or not we, but my contemporaries slew during the Great Mistake were not the first gods. They were known as the third pantheon. There were gods before them. And the gods before them were known as the twins. The twins were the creators of magic. The god before them, even in my time, we knew very little about. But the gods that were slain by my mother and the Empress, my aunt, were the third pantheon, the ones who extrapolated, you can say, upon magic and how to create with the arcane and divine forces. And that was what we did. Very few in my time focused upon how to wield the primal power that you and the champion of the green here have a connection to. It was old-fashioned and quaint in my time. But Bakan was never enamored by the arcane magics. He focused on the old ways and the old knowledges. I do believe that he was never corrupted by the powers unleashed by the Great Mistake. The last I heard of him, he had found peace in the form of a tree.
Well,
And some elves had started building a city around him.
well, he came to me in a dream, and although he did not partake in the fight, he said that he was also afflicted by the power that seeped into him. And while we spoke, I hope you're right, and he has found peace, because while I spoke to him, from the green that was around us, suddenly it started withering where he touched.
Oh dear. It would seem Bakan may have hidden this affliction from me, at least, and from who knows how many others.
I'm not sure it was my part to talk about it here, but I'm worried about him. He seems nice.
I would ask you to ascertain the fate of Bakan. He never took up the mantle of a god. If he was afflicted by this corruption, then he may have also been touched by whatever power was created by the slaying of the third pantheon.
You say he's a tree and elves build a city around him?
Yes, indeed. That is the last I heard, but if he was corrupted, well, I hope the elves found out before they started imbibing of his essence.
Rain looks to the others. You know of any city and where it is?
I'm sorry, Rain. I know little of elves.
Same here.
But I would guess one of the elven kingdoms.
I wonder if King's wife would know.
Illyrio? Possibly.
She is some sort of chosen by Giltine, so perhaps.
She turns back. Captain?
Did I don't know if I misheard it. Did you say temporary slain the sleeping gods?
Not temporarily, they were slain, but something, although I have not yet ascertained what, and I'm afraid I never will, was created. I don't know. I'm not certain that you can actually ever completely slay a god, as is the case with Ixtab trying to regain her power. And if the gods of the third pantheon weren't completely slain, or say if they were denied access to the afterlife, like the souls now becoming undead, well, I shiver to think what may have become of them.
So you said this is your father's sword.
Indeed.
And why does he come to me in a dream saying I can finish what he started?
You would have to ask him that. I can only tell you what I knew of him. My father was always a just man, compassionate. Once the gods started slumbering and the empire fell into chaos and ruin, he was furious. He felt that the gods deserved punishment. They did not deserve their mantles as divine beings. He wanted to take that power for himself to ensure that no man or beast should ever again be beholden to a god that would, well, desert them.
And
Mad
in
with
turn,
rage. I'm sorry, Master Dwarf. What were you saying?
and in turn, he failed on what he wanted to do.
Indeed. You must understand, this was in the early days of this world. We did not yet know much about divinity and how it worked. He could not have foreseen that he himself would have the mantle of divinity forced upon him.
Then he willed this sword into the hand of Mark Baller to slay, so the sword could be driven through his heart.
Indeed, I believe that is exactly why Aller ended up wielding that sword. And it hasn't been seen since the days of Aller, so the fact that you are now carrying it, well, I believe it will have great consequences for this world, how you decide to use it.
How I decide to use it.
That is the true beauty, I believe, of life and creation, and not being a divine being, or, as in my case, being between life and death. You can still choose. You have the option of making your own way. While my father, at the moment they slew the old gods and the mantle of lawbringer was forced upon him, in effect lost his ability to choose. The gods, indeed, while the most powerful beings of all in this reality, are also the ones with the least freedom. Had we known this back in my day, the great mistake would never have happened.
So they slew the gods and were forced into their place.
Isn't that what they wanted to begin with? You keep calling it the great mistake. I don't Is that what they all consider it, or is it just you?
Well, I can only answer for myself, but with what I know now, I know that just as there had been gods before the third pantheon who went into a slumber so deep that for beings like us it may well be death, this is what the third pantheon were about to do, and indeed a fourth pantheon was about to spring into existence to further elaborate and refine creation as we know it, our world, but we, well, again, not me, but my family and my contemporaries disrupted that process.
So you
Stole their
chose
power.
you chose not to be involved at all?
Indeed, not that I wasn't angry. I was furious with them for leaving us to our own fates and letting the Empire and the citizens of the Empire suffer, but I believed we needed more time to research what was afflicting them before going to the point of deicide. As such, I sat on the fence doing nothing. My own great mistake, not trying to stop my family from disrupting what I believe was the plan of reality.
And yet, the deity who speaks to me in my dreams, you call him grandfather, who he wasn't part of this great mistake.
He was not. Indeed, we all knew him as grandfather. Back then, he was still active in the world. After the great mistake, he has slumbered. But I believe the one that I know as grandfather was, and who at time held my aunt, the Empress, as his lover, was actually one of the second pantheon, the two gods, the twins. He was the embodiment of the primal forces, where his sister was the embodiment of civilization. She went to sleep long before him.
Wow.
Why he did not stop my aunt and my family from slaying the gods, I do not know. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he didn't think they could do it. But I can't help but believe that he's regretted that ever since.
Lau just kind of shakes his head and he's like, I'm not sure I trust any of you. You in particular. We ride the fence, we do what we think we can do, or we don't do anything. You have all kinds of information. You know everyone in this scenario. And yet, here you are, hiding by yourself.
Indeed, that has ever been my greatest failure. The fear to act before I know all the factors, have all the information. Once it is time to act, or once I have all the information, it's the time to act has long passed. As such, I would ask that Tasha, my descendants, allow me to accompany the rest of you in a fashion. My time, indeed, the time of my people is long gone. And I fear that it is only a matter of time before my sister manages to find a way into my sanctum and take my power for her own, which would put her on equal footing, if not greater, than any of the gods of the current pantheon. And if it is true that a fragment uncorrupted of my mother resides in that staff, I would very much ask that my essence be added to it, so I may see her once more.
Can I have a question first?
Very well.
What do you know of Anju?
It was the name of our house. The first humans. The high men, we were called. I always disagreed with that. We may as well have called it the high women. Why didn't we not? Anju was the name of the tribe that was seeded by the twin gods of the second pantheon as the first humans on this world. And as such, once we started Empire and knowing we were descended from them, it made sense to take it as our own family name.
I have a question, if I may.
Indeed.
Lainey's hand goes to her rapier. You say that these weapons are all from your family, from the First Empire, and that we are all descendants from it in some way. Can you tell me whose weapon this was and what it does?
A good thing you asked. Because I do not actually believe you are one of those our descendants. And power, magic, such as is in your rapier, I have never seen before. I believe instead you are something new. A new type of magic. Springing into creation. I'm afraid I can't say anything except that. It is unknown to me. A beginning, not a continuation of anything.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Again, she looks at Tasha. So, again, I must ask you, would you allow part of my spirit to reside within that staff of yours while the rest of me leaves for whatever afterlife awaits me after all this time?
I mean, are you sure you'll get along with your mother? Because the last thing I need right now is you two being in that staff and going at each other's throats while I try to defeat weird things from beyond the stars, and also settling fights between undead vampires and demons.
Don't forget the dragons.
Oh, and the dragons. Yeah, thank you, Captain.
And all the assassins.
Well,
The whole world.
The whole world.
we may not have always seen eye to eye when we were both living, breathing beings, but a couple of millennia trapped in hollow files tends to broaden your horizons and mellow youthful seal. I'm quite sure I will get along with her quite just fine now. Yes, Master Dwarf.
Before this goes on any further and you decide what you do, we still need to know about how to awaken the ivory dragon.
Yes.
How can we get to the other professors?
Thank you, Captain.
Oh, yes, indeed. In the Undercity, there's a portal to the plane of mindless torment. A natural one. Can't be dispelled, only momentarily quenched. The assassins use that portal as a doorway to their own citadel. Travel through there, destroy their citadel, and their reinforcements will dry out, allowing you to gather enough professors to awaken the Ivory Dragon, which should clear out any remaining assassins quite nicely, I believe.
So you're saying we have to go to this other plane,
Of
destroy
eternal torment.
the eternal
My-
torment,
Mindless torment.
mindless torment, destroy an assassin's citadel, which I assume would be their main seat of power.
Indeed. It is indeed where every undead assassin on this world gathers.
So all these assassins that have been attacking are undead.
Yes, indeed.
We were not told that.
If you'll excuse me for a moment.
Me too.
I think it might be time to take 10.
Take 10.
In the middle of the conversation, fine.
others say. Just find your way and try to stay true. I want you to stay true to what's right for you, no matter who. Oh, and know what will others say. Just find your way and try to stay true, 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 true,
to save bandwidth.
Oof. There we are. I do believe we are back. Would that be correct, Mr. Toma?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. In that case, we're back, everybody. And I believe before the break, Ida had just gotten some of her questions answered. Or was it Rain? Oh well.
It would be the captain with how do we manage to gather the professors for the Ivory Dragon? And you said, well, you just gotta go to their plane of mindless torment and destroy a citadel, because that is the easiest thing in the world to do.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes, indeed.
And you took away my Mattock for that. Okay.
Once Ixtab was destroyed and the Death Lord took over the mantle of undeath, the patron of assassins, Andraxios, was also created. And to his displeasure, forced to be the patron of all assassins, not just the touchy-feely Boy Scout ones. However, in their haste to lay down rules, the three lawgiver deities forgot to word his responsibilities properly, so Andraxios is only the patron of living assassins, leaving hundreds of undead assassins hanging, as Andraxios refused to be their patron and the Death Lord refused them, calling assassination unchivalric.
Is this the new
I don't
Death
think it
Lord?
was a mistake.
That is the new Death Lord indeed. So, these assassins have, for the last 2 centuries, tried to kill enough people and enough powerful beings that they can create their own undead patron of assassins.
That sounds like something we want to stop.
So there may
Maybe-
also be a proto-god of assassins in that citadel.
Yippee.
Yeah, let's just make it harder.
Well, let's go then. We need to get this thing moving.
Yeah, we definitely want to stop that thing getting any stronger.
Maybe we should just, become god of undead assassins and just tell them to fuck off.
You would do that?
I mean, I'm probably not really fit for the job since I have about as much knowledge about assassination as I have about the biology of, these little bear creature thingies. But
I'll pass. I'm not keen on the whole undeath thing.
And I'm kind of sworn to destroy them, so not me.
You only say that because you're still alive.
Well, fear not, descendant. Should you allow me to reside in your staff, I will make sure that we have classes on but the biology of all known living creatures.
someone remind me to bury that stuff very, very far away as soon as we're done with this whole business.
Why wait?
You're not
Because
wrong.
we need it.
Do we trust anyone from any of these pantheons? Like, no matter what she says, there's a reason why she wasn't involved in all this.
The question is, Lyle, do you trust me?
I don't trust anyone.
Well, that answers your question then.
Didn't you just send me the other day into like a plane of existence where I was like trapped and all that?
Harsh, Lyle.
Well, harsh but true, sadly.
I mean,
It wasn't deliberately.
where I wanted to hold grudges, I might be upset about pulling an arrow from someone's neck, you know? And he just kind of shakes his head a bit.
Look, you can hold grudges against me as much as you want. We actually settled that particular one grudge, so I'm just gonna move on from here. DM!
Yes, that's me.
Sorry, Lal, what do you want to say?
No, go ahead.
Does Tasha, with all the knowledge she has by now, the feeling that this would be a good idea? to, involve Sabine into this whole mess?
Well, only the one playing Tasha can really answer that question.
Not really, no.
Tasha feels about it quite like you do. I would never take the liberty of messing with any character's feelings or backstories.
Good answer.
Can you repeat that once more, just so I know I heard it clearly, please?
I said Tasha would feel about it just like you do. I would never take the liberty of messing with any character's feelings or backstories.
Okie dokie. Well, what would be our benefits of letting you into that staff? So far, all I had was, well, mostly trouble with you and your sisters, and your mom in particular, even though she's teaching me now. She seems to have plans.
Well, I don't believe I've caused any trouble for you, but I may have at some point, and simply not remember it, but if you would allow a shard of my essence to reside in that staff, that shard would be able to share my knowledge with you.
And what would happen to you?
The rest of my being, what you would call a soul, would move on to whatever afterlife there is for someone of my lineage. Out of the grasp of my sister or Ixtab if she should rise again, and thus ensuring that this world stays a lot safer. So, well, allowing Rebecca to add my power to her own would be nothing short of devastating.
I mean, but if you are in the staff, she still has that, possibility, though.
Only the knowledge. Only a small shard of myself, what I believe can safely be deposited into the staff. And not even all of that, just the bare minimum I think that you will need to meet the challenges coming up. Indeed, I would deposit as little as possible to, well, avoid creating another weapon capable of slaying gods, although I believe the staff already is quite capable of that. We do not need to turbocharge it.
Won't that make your sister annoyed that she can't add your power to her own?
Oh yes, quite furious. It's one of the bonuses of doing so.
Let's do it.
Does it have to be my staff? Is there none here that wields a weapon where you would feel comfortable to share your knowledge with that person?
No, there is not. Besides, I would very dearly like to see what shard of my mother is left in that staff.
Well, it's not a shard of Ixtab.
No, that's what I said.
Tasha wordlessly holds out the staff so she can do her thing.
She moves up towards the staff, places both hands on top of it, lets out a contented sigh. Yeah. You can see her presence growing fainter as darkness starts moving in from the edges of the world around you. In the end, you can also see the spells that have been keeping her looking like a normal living being fade away, leaving only a floating golden skull with 2 emeralds for eyes that floats over to the top of the staff and fastens on top of it, leaving you standing in a small bubble of reality, looking out into nothingness on all sides, with just you and the gazebo and the doorway in it.
Where did she say this portal is?
She mentioned
the
it was in the Undercity.
Does this also mean there's 3 people in Tasha's body at this point?
No.
Oh, I was asking her directly.
They're in the staff, not in my body.
Hmm.
Unless there's something you know that I don't know, and now would be a good time to tell me, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know anything about what's going on. I just know that some of us, how do I word this? The dreams I have involve multiple of you dying. And it's all of you who seem to be related to this particular family. And so trusting anyone when there's 3 people in the same body seems a bit weird, Tasha. So I would warn you. Be careful of voices inside your head.
I appreciate the warning. I will do what I can. I believe it is time that we move on.
Agreed.
We should go.
Well, the only way out's the door. Let's head for the door.
Yes. Heading out through the door, you arrive back in the study/classroom that you were in. Still filled with water.
Can we still breathe?
Yes.
Let's get out of here before we stop being able to breathe.
Good idea.
Yep, I am all for that.
Maybe you should also learn to transform. Wouldn't take care of some problems.
It would indeed, but not all of us are as magical as you.
Some
Tasha,
of us aren't even magical.
Tasha takes one step into the house. You can see a wave of light moving in from the walls and roof and floor, moving into Tasha for a moment, and lifting her a couple of inches off the floor before she lands again.
What was that?
You feeling okay?
I think so. What is that?
That's what we'd like to know.
Oh, goodness. I think I know what this is. I gotta sell this place, I swear. I guess this is now my home. Well, not my home, but this ownership of this house moved to me, it seems. Wait.
So we got a mansion here as well.
At least now you have a place where you won't be bothered.
That's true. I'll make the best of it.
And you
Some-
just got to learn to breathe underwater.
I was about to say that, Captain. Thank you.
I don't think that should be a problem. There's
I don't
harder
think you'll
spells
have any
that-
issues with that.
Yeah, there's harder
Really-
spells figuring that out.
You can really be called Beauty of the Lake.
I think I'm just gonna say this once, but I hate all of you for this whole Beauty of the Lake thing. I just want you to know that I do not appreciate this whole Beauty of the Lake thing, and at some point, your future wife, Lyle, should brace herself for shenanigans.
And I'll just take a low bow and I'll say, I apologize, Duchess. I didn't mean to offend.
She's gonna get pranked a lot.
Oh, I'm all in for pranks.
I do believe that is between you and Nashiram.
It is.
Oh,
I'll take the title if you don't want it.
Lonnie, Beauty of the Lake.
Let's go to the Undercity. Well, to the Undercity. Ah, I haven't learned to speak, it seems.
It happens.
Yes, let's. That proto god that Sabine spoke of gets stronger every moment, if it exists.
Don't worry, lady. We'll make sure Nasharam puts out some feelers to find you a nice husband. Or wife, whatever you're into.
Wait, who are you
right.
talking about?
A lady wants to be the beauty of the lake. You got Baldagunda under that title, you know. Maybe Lainey's feeling a little left out.
I think I can manage my own romantic life. Thank you, Victor.
Sounds like she wants help. I'll be sure to talk to Nashiram.
By the way, does anyone, wanna, call dibs on Captain Tanke?
I think someone already
Nice.
has.
They're nice, but not really my type.
Well, then I will have to talk to Baldegund.
Baldagunda just gives Tasha a devilish grin.
Tasha wiggles her eyebrows. But first, business.
And on that note, I'm afraid we'll have to call the session a bit earlier than we usually do today. Thank you all for coming. We'll be back next Sunday at the usual time. We might not actually be back next Sunday because we're going to a christening of a small child. But we'll update the Discord with that once we know what the timetable looks like. And if not, we'll be back the Sunday after that. Hopefully. It is December, so your mileage may vary on Sundays this month, but we will make sure to keep people apprised on that on our respective Discords before it happens.
Just let me know first because I'm the one to stream next. That would be good.
Absolutely. And on that note, let's see if we find somebody to raid. And we will see you all next time.
Bye.
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 See you, everyone.
There we are. Sorry about having to call it early, everyone. Whatever is afflicting me is spiking, and that turns my brain to mush and makes me need to go lie down. But